I'm speaking today from the subject, the process of breakthrough. The process of breakthrough. It is interesting here that this is not David's first encounter with the Philistines. You remember David slew Goliath, who was a Philistine. And so they were a bit salty with David because he had killed their champion hero. And notice that they came out to meet them in the valley of Rephaim. This means the land of the giants. These were huge people. The valley of Rephaim, these folks had great height, stature there. They were estimated to be between 7 and 10 feet tall. This is a land of giants. And as you know, Goliath is one of these giants, and David killed him. And so now here's David, who had the experience of killing a bear, the experience of killing a lion, and now the experience of killing a giant. And now he's still fighting these Philistine people. And what most people don't realize about the story of David and Goliath, remember God had given him 5 smooth stones. He went with 5 smooth stones in his little sling. And now, he didn't understand exactly, I don't think, why he had 5 stones, but one was for Goliath that took him down. The other 4 were actually for Goliath's 4 brothers that David spent the next 40 years trying to deal with. So whenever you get one victory, there's something behind that is going to fight you for the next season of your life. That's why life seems to be one battle after another. Have you ever lived in an experience that as soon as you conquered this one thing, you thought that it would be over and that you wouldn't have to deal with any other challenges, and you discover that there's another challenge? You have some challenges in your teens, you have some in your 20s, you get different challenges in your 30s, and some other different challenges in your 40s. The 50s present their own challenges. And the 60s and 70s, they have their challenges. And wherever you are, you're going to find that in every stage of life, you'll find challenges. But David knew that he was facing a giant situation, but he didn't back away from it. He simply prayed to get God's mind. He wanted God's direction. He wanted God's blessing. He says, Lord, should I go to war with them? Are you going to be with me? And he got a word from the Lord, go there and I'm going to deliver them over into your hand. And it was just as he said. But I want you to understand that before there is a breakthrough, there's always a buildup. Before there's a breakthrough, there's always a buildup. So when we're talking about the process of breakthrough, most people get excited because they want a breakthrough of money, a breakthrough of health, a breakthrough of victory, all of these breakthroughs. But it's the build up. It's the build-up. We all want to celebrate at the championship, but it's what you do in practice, in building up for the main event. It's what you do ahead of time. That's more important than the event itself. The build-up is more important than the big event. And God brings the breakthrough based on the build-up that has preceded it. So in the process of breakthrough, don't just want a blessing and a miracle. It's the build-up leading up to it that prepares us for what God wants to do. And you can look at people that have particular things and it just looked like, man, so-and-so came out of nowhere. You know, it just looked like they just blew up overnight. That's just what it looked like. But overnight success always comes from those who have spent a lifetime of work that nobody saw. Just trust me on that. Overnight successes always come from those who have spent a lifetime of work that nobody saw. There was something behind the scenes. They were laboring in a season of obscurity where people couldn't see their disappointments, their frustrations, their fears, their self-defeating negative talk that they were dealing with. They were battling through a lot of different things, and then all of a sudden when you finally get your breakthrough, it looks as though it was so sudden. Success or breakthroughs are always gradual and then sudden. Gradual and then sudden. Gradual, then sudden. It's gradually making the donuts. It's gradually getting up with your confessions, putting your positive affirmations out there, gradually just doing the same thing over and over. It's firing yourself up, talking yourself, giving yourself this talk when you get up in the morning. When you know, come on, it's time to get up. It's time to, come on. We got to make this thing. We got to make this work today. Come on. And it's doing that day after day after day after day. It's doing the thing in the gym, and it's not exciting. It's not sexy. If you want the sexy, you got to do the boring. The sexy follows the boring. It's a diligence of doing this thing that is just laborious day after day after day after day. But all progress comes by process. And that's why there's a process to break through. You see, if it's what you do before you go into a battle that determines your victory in the battle. It's what you do before the battle. It's seeking the Lord. It's getting all of the prep work. It's getting your mind right. You got to have the right mindset. You got to have a victorious mindset before you go into the battle, not a victim mentality. You got to go out with this thing. You got to have a mind to go into giant territory and take things that you don't have the manpower and the resources and all of the sophisticated systems to be able to tackle. But you're going trusting God that not by might nor by power, but God, I'm trusting you to do something in my life, through my life, that will bring glory to you, to say, hey, look what the Lord has done. It is marvelous in my eyes. Have you ever laid your eyes on territory that might have been filled with giants, bigger than anything that you could deal with yourself? And you might say, I don't have the money for this expensive marketing kind of campaign, and I don't have the money to be able to create all of this, but you just go with your little cornbread plan, while corporate America, Fortune 500 companies, they've got this master cake plan that's been well thought out. They've got psychologists and attorneys and all kinds of stuff working behind the scenes, and financial experts, and it's just you and an idea that God gave you in the middle of the night, and all that you have is just a little something to say, God, can you do anything? Is there a place in this market for me? God, can you make a place for little old me? Can you birth something through me? I realize something is in your belly, something is in your spirit, something is in your mind, something is in your capacity to dream and to think that is bigger than who you are and what you have with you. But when people look at you, you are more than what people are able to see. There's more to you than meets the eye. There's a God behind you that whispers and gives you strategy. He gives you divine ideas that will be implemented. And you got to have a breakthrough experience so you can birth what's in you. There's got to be a breaking. There's got to be a breaking. And my whole thing to you is this, is that the more sweat that you lose in practice, the less blood you lose in battle. It's what you do ahead of the fight. It's your devotion. It's your commitment. It's your dedication to the routine when it gets boring, right at the time that people say, man, I'm tired of this. I'm going to do something else. That's the time when you need to stick to it the hardest, to fight through the drudgery of doing it when you don't feel like doing it. That's what discipline is. It's doing it when you don't even feel like doing it. I mean, when you really understand maturity, maturity is about being able to remain disciplined long after the emotion has passed. Long after the hype has died down, you're still committed to the process. There is no progress without process. You got to stay committed to the process. Stay committed to the process. God has a strategy for you. He has a strategy for you. And I encourage you to do this. Make room in your life for whatever you're expecting God to do. Make room for it. Make room for it in your mind, in your heart, in your garage, whatever you're trusting God to do. Make room for it. Make room for it in your schedule. Make room for it. If you believe that God's going to do something in your life, make room for it. Make room for it. You build it and they will come. Just make the room for it. Nothing else says I've got faith that God is going to do this thing than for me to make room for this thing. Make room for it. Make room for it. I mean, how smart is it, a man that has a single bed, you believe in God for a wife? Get comfortable in your own skin and realize this is the equipment that God has given me to be able to change my environment, my circumstances. And always pray. I can't emphasize this enough. Always pray before you go into a battle, no matter how simple it looks. No matter how simple it looks. When it's your battle, I want you to think of it like this. There is no such a thing as minor surgery. When they're talking about cutting on you, it's major. There's no such a thing as minor surgery. When they're talking about you cutting on you, you better say, Lord, guide the surgeon's hands. Jesus, this might look simple, but seek the Lord first. Always go to God first before you go into a battle. Whether it's with a legal system, whether it is with your family members, team members, some former associate, whatever battle that you're dealing with, if it's a battle with your health, a battle in your neighborhood, always go to God first. Go to God first. A budget is a strategy for your money. A diet and exercise plan is a strategy for your wellness. It is a strategy. A strategy is a particular way of doing something. And the right strategy will give you victory. And here's one thing I want you to see. Breakthrough, while certain, is usually not immediate. It's not immediate. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. You have to be willing to be patient. You inherit the promise through patience. It usually takes time. It's gradual, then sudden. You'll be the same thing, making the donuts, the same routine, being faithful to a process. It is gradual, and then suddenly, here's your breakthrough. Suddenly, you all of a sudden come on the map. Suddenly, you get amplified through some media that comes by word of mouth, that is really a propulsion that comes by God being with you and favoring you. I can't even explain it to you. God can give you more in word of mouth than you could pay for in advertising. He really can. He really can. And we cannot impugn the character of God while we are waiting on things just because they don't happen as rapidly as we think that they should happen. We cannot impugn his character. We have to trust him. We have to say, God, I know that you're faithful to your word. You've given me a promise, and you are not a man that you should lie. You're going to bring this thing into manifestation, and I'm trusting you. Even though this is boring and this is routine, but I'm committed, God, to doing what you told me to do, even though I'm sleepy this morning, but I'm committed to the process. I am committed to the process. I am committed to the process. Oftentimes, God is testing your character before he'll trust you with riches in your hand. He's just trying to trust you, to say, will you be faithful with a little process? Because I'm going to get ready to make you ruler over much, and if I can't trust you in this little process to follow my instructions to you, I'm not going to be able to trust you with a whole lot, and so you're getting ready to forego it. But I love the fact of this. God told the children of Israel as he was working through a process, don't sit there, bust a move. He told them to walk. Walk it out. Walk it out. Walk and keep your mouth closed. Just get yourself in motion. Motion is somehow connected to energy. Just you have to move. You have to get up and move. I love the words of Rosa Luxemburg. She said, those who do not move do not notice their chains. Can you imagine that if you are limited and if you never move, you don't even realize that you're a slave, chained until you start moving. You discover your limitations when you start moving. You discover the limitations that are in your life. But those who do not move do not notice their chains. And I can't tell you how many people that I have met that I've tried to unlock who are held by a memory. And God is just saying, listen, bust a move. Bust a move. And if you'll start moving, you'll notice your chains. But God says, I got breakthrough on the way to you. He said, I'm trying to get you to breakthrough. Because you'll never break chains that you'll refuse to move. You got to start. Have you ever seen people start breaking chains? You cannot break chains without moving. You cannot break chains without moving. You got to start moving to break the chains. You really want the chains to break, there's got to be movement. There's got to be movement. And I'll tell you this, the story that you tell yourself shapes your future. The story that you tell yourself shapes your future. See, praise is a story of victory. The story that you tell yourself shapes your future. What story are you telling yourself? I watch people that I've tried to help, and they're telling themselves a self-defeating story. There's stuff like this, I ain't never been good with money. And that's the story that they tell themselves. The story that you tell yourself shapes your future. The story that you tell yourself shapes your future. I've seen people that have weight issues that say, you know what, I'm just big bone. I got a slow metabolism. The story that you tell yourself shapes your future. The big bone people who get it under control start telling themselves a different story, because the story that you tell yourself shapes your future. It doesn't seem like I'm gonna ever get a husband, like I can't never get nobody, keep nobody. The story that you tell yourself shapes your future. You don't even have to pursue that which you have the power to attract. If you learn to tell yourself a story and understand that there are certain things and qualities that you can develop in yourself that will make you absolutely irresistible and attractive. But it's based on a story that you tell yourself. The story that you tell yourself shapes your future. The story that you tell yourself shapes your future. And I'm just here to tell you that you've been in a build-up, and now we're going to have a breakthrough. Not a breakout, a breakthrough. We're coming through in spite of everything that has tried to hold you at a certain level. It's breakthrough time now. Prophetic breakthrough. He's bringing us out. He's bringing us out. God is bringing us out. More importantly, it's delivering out of you what you have felt carried in you in pain. You've been birthing this thing on the inside of you. It's bigger than you. It's got to come out because it's bigger than you. It has an assignment, and you've got to release it. And your water has got to break. That's why you have to cry sometimes. You have to cry sometimes. It's okay. He understands the tears. He interprets them, and it's a part of the birthing process. You don't birth unless you break water. It's impossible. Even by cesarean section, they have to break the water first. There has to be the breaking through of the water before there's the birthing of the blessing. And we're in a season of breakthrough divinely. But he's had us in process. And God is saying, I need you to trust me during the process. I heard him just say, walk with me, walk with me, walk with me in the process. Walk with me. Though it looks like you've done this before, but the power of the prophetic breakthrough is the timing. You can do the same thing that you've been doing. But when God says, now, all of a sudden, when you make the phone call this time, you get the affirmative response. You get approved. You get connected. You get established. You get blessed.